This is the video for section 2.2, Angle Bisectors. Please follow along with your video worksheet. The first section has all of the terms, definitions, and diagrams that I will be using, and the second section has all of the example problems that I will be showing you. Please fill in the worksheet as you watch the video. Let's begin. When we bisect an angle, we cut it into two congruent angles. So we're starting here with the blue angle, angle RST, and I will be bisecting this angle. Now when we bisect an angle, we construct a ray with its endpoint at the vertex of the angle, and we make that ray go between the two sides of our angle RST. And what that does is it constructs two congruent angles. I'm going to show that by making an arc on each of those two angles showing they're congruent. And I also need a point, let's call it P, on that ray. So we constructed a angle bisector, which is a ray that divides the angle into two congruent angles. And that angle bisector is ray SP. Now here's our first example problem. We have the big blue angle, which is angle ABC, and its measure is 56 degrees. So I'm going to mark that on my picture. And we have ray BD, which is the red one, bisects angle ABC. Now as soon as they tell me that the ray bisects the angle, I am going to show that those two angles in there are congruent. And now since angle ABC is 56 degrees, and those two red angles are congruent, to figure out the measure of those two red angles, I'm going to take 56 and divide it by 2. And when I do that, I get 28 degrees. So that tells me each of these two little angles in here are 28 degrees. So now let's go over and see what they wanted us to find. The first is the measure of angle ABD. Now that is this measure right here, which is 28 degrees. The next one they want us to find is the measure of angle DBC. Now that's the other little angle in here, which is also 28 degrees because our big blue angle was bisected. And the last is the measure of angle ABC, which was our original big angle, which is 56 degrees. All right, let's move on to our second example. Now this tells me the measure of angle YWZ is 70 degrees. So as soon as they tell me that, I'm going to go ahead and mark it on my picture. And the second thing is the measure of angle XWY is 5x plus 25. So 5x plus 25 goes here. And then they tell me that ray WY bisects angle XWZ. Now I'm going to show that with these two arcs, and as soon as I know that the angle is bisected, I can mark them both with one arc showing that they're congruent, or their measures are equal. So to find x, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up an algebra problem that says 5x plus 25 equals 70 degrees. And to solve that, I subtract 25 from both sides, and that gives me 5x equals 45, and I divide by 5, and that gives me x equals 9 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up on my answer blank. And then they want me to find the measure of angle XWY. Now XWY is marked congruent to the other angle, which is 70 degrees, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that that one is also 70 degrees. Now we could also find that by substituting 9 degrees in for x, so you could find 5 times 9 plus 25, and that gives me 45 plus 25, which is also 70 degrees. And the last thing they want me to find in this problem is the measure of angle XWZ. Now that's the whole big angle together. So to find that big angle together, what I'm going to do is just take the 70 plus another 70, because those are the two angles that make up angle XWZ, and that gives me 140 degrees. Now moving on to our last question here, it is a review problem. So we should be able to do this one from before. We need to find the measure of each angle, and then we're going to classify each angle as acute, obtuse, right, or straight. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to notice that all of these angles together basically make a straight line, so their measures should add up to 180 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract the three angles that are given to me. So minus 14, minus 35, and minus 47. Now that gives me 84 degrees. Now 84 degrees is going to be the measure of this angle and the measure of this angle together, but they're marked as congruent. So if I take 84 and divide it by 2, I'm going to be getting 42 degrees. So that tells me that this angle is 42 degrees and this angle is also 42 degrees. Now this is all I need to find all the measures of the angles that they're asking for. I just have to add up the appropriate ones. So let's start with our first one. The measure of angle AGB. Now AGB is this angle, and as you can see, the measure of that angle is given as 42 degrees. Now this angle is smaller than a right angle, so it is going to be classified as acute. The next angle that they ask for is the measure of angle BGC. So here's BGC, and that one is also shown for us on the picture as 42 degrees. And again, smaller than a 90-degree angle, and it is classified as acute. The next angle they ask for is the measure of angle AGD. This is angle AGD. Now this one is three angles together. So to find this angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 42 plus 42 plus 14. And that gives me 98 degrees. So this measure right here is 98 degrees. Now that is bigger than a right angle, so I'm going to classify this angle as obtuse. The next angle we ask for is the measure of angle DGF. So here is DGF. Angle DGF is going to be, again, two angles added up, which is the 35 plus the 47. So 35 plus 47, and that gives me 82 degrees. And 82 degrees is less than 90. This angle is smaller than a right angle, so I call it acute. The next angle we ask for is the measure of angle AGF. Now AGF looks like a straight line. It is going to be all those measures added up, which is going to be 180 degrees. And since it's 180 degrees, we are going to classify this angle as straight. The last angle we ask for is the measure of angle EGB, and that is this angle. Now, EGB is going to be the sum of 42 plus 14 plus 35, and that will be 91 degrees. Now this one is really close to a right angle, but it is slightly bigger than 90 degrees, so we are going to classify this angle as obtuse. Now it's important to look at the angle measure and not just look at what the angle appears to be. This one looks very much like a right angle, but it's just slightly bigger, 91 degrees, so we need to classify it as obtuse. This concludes the video on section 2.2 angle bisectors. Thanks for watching.